Welcome to Nerd Narrates, where I pick the best stories from the internet and share them with you. Let's begin the video. I, F20, met my boyfriend, M21, during the freshman year of college. He was in the second year, when I was in my first year of college. We met at one of my friends' house, who introduced him to me as a friend of her boyfriend. After talking for a while, we both knew that we were going to end up becoming the third wheel at my friend's house, so we decided to leave. We sat down at a cafe and had a nice chat over a cup of coffee. Our conversation went so well, in fact, that we didn't even realize that we ended up talking for over 3 hours. I knew I felt a sense of attraction towards him from the same day I met him, and I think he did too. So he asked for my number and texted me the very same day. Being busy with classes, we decided to meet during the weekend but continued talking throughout the week. Our conversations were amazing. We could honestly talk about anything and everything, and it was to a point even my friends asked me why I was so glued to my phone. The weekend came and we met at the library as planned. That was our first official date, and it went just as I expected. Amazing. I was happy that I found someone that I got along with so well. So I continued seeing him, and we met almost every other day and spent as much time with each other as we possibly could. He asked me out after about a month of seeing each other, and I said yes. I was extremely happy in this relationship. I felt loved and understood by him. This felt very good, especially due to the fact that I did not have the best family life. So we continued dating, and I saw nothing suspicious about him at that time, except for the fact that he had gotten out of a 1-month-long relationship about 2 weeks before meeting me. I'm still not sure if that's a red flag or if it's valid to jump into another relationship so quickly, but I apologized at that time. I also observed how fast he was with the relationship. He confessed his liking towards me within a week, and he told me that he loved after 2 months of dating. So, I guess that was a red flag which I should have looked out for, but I was wearing rose-tinted glasses at that time and didn't know any better. I let myself ignore everything he ever did wrong, just as I enjoyed the newly found attention. So, it had been around 6 months since we were dating. It was one of those days we walked around mindlessly through the mall as it was past the time my boyfriend and I could hang out at each other's dorm rooms. I told my boyfriend how sick I am of living in the dorm and that I was planning to move out after the semester with my best friend who went to the same college under the same university I was in. My boyfriend suggested that we should get an apartment together instead, as he too was tired of living in the dorms, and we both had part-time jobs, so it made sense if we moved in together, as we could technically afford a decent apartment, and so we did. We did not have to hunt for long, as my city, being filled with colleges, had apartments which have student-friendly rents. These apartments aren't in the best condition, but I figured as long as I was with my boyfriend, I could work it out. And things did seem to work out. For a while. You see, it's been a year and a half since we were together, and although I wouldn't say things were perfect, but they were still going pretty well. My boyfriend and I had started partying a lot, so we would often be at one of his friends' house or another partying, and once in a while even go clubbing with them. One thing I noticed is that my boyfriend did not introduce me as his girlfriend to any of his friends. He would only introduce me by my name. This bothered me, and didn't make much sense to me because after all these parties, he would be very lovey-dovey with me. Hell, even during the parties, we would often kiss and do other PDA, so it didn't make much sense to me when his friends would tease him about him getting into a relationship with me. You all might be wondering if I didn't try to tell them all that we were dating, and I did. Every time someone cracked one of these jokes and my boyfriend just laughed, I would tell them that we were in a relationship, and my boyfriend would just answer with a dry response and change the topic of conversation. We started fighting over this, and my boyfriend told me that he just wasn't ready and that it was too early for our relationship to be revealed to the world. I'm not going to go into too much detail, as you all know how absurd our conversation would be, because I really thought that this man loved me. An incident which took place during one of these parties is what made me lose my temper. Well, you see, to put it lightly, my boyfriend isn't the most confident about his looks. So when he started to get hit on by not one but 3 girls who were probably trying to get him to buy him drinks outside of this party, he lost his mind as his ego was being boosted from all this attention he was receiving. He ignored me throughout the party, and although this wasn't anything new, it already ticked me off. My irritation, along with about a bottle of vodka, combined equaled to me coming to my senses somehow. Being completely drunk, I told my boyfriend we needed to get home. The girls, who were clearly still all touchy-feely with my boyfriend, asked him about me. And he lies to their face, telling them that I'm just a roommate, and oh boy, anger would be an understatement. Somehow, I managed to get myself to not punch this guy on the spot and get a mutual friend who hadn't been drinking to drop me off. So my boyfriend is left with no ride home, as we usually traveled by cabs and split the cost or had someone drive us home. Every single one of us was smashed that night except for the mutual friend who left home after dropping me off. My boyfriend called me again and again, and in his drunken state couldn't figure out who I'd left with. My boyfriend had his college internals the next day, so needed to be home for revision. He couldn't afford to get home alone by the cab and wouldn't stop blowing up my phone. I refused to pick any of his calls, and he's practically stranded there. The next day arrives. I decided to skip college and pack my ex-boyfriend's belongings. He comes home by evening somehow to find all of his belongings outside the house and start panicking as he realizes that he screwed up. He calls, knocks on the doors, looks through the window, and tries everything in his ability to try to contact me. I had put my phone on silent as I did not want to deal with any more of him. I think when his attempts don't work, he decides to call the cops. I'm not sure what went through his head at that time, but he did. The cops probably tell him that they cannot do a lot in the situation, but will try to contact me, so he sits by the staircase of our apartment. Well, as he stopped knocking on the door, I thought that he had left, and I decided to check my phone to get a laugh out of his texts, but what I saw next made me anxious. I have about 8 missed calls from our local police station, along with all the other calls left by my ex and his friends. So I decided to give them a call back and explain the entire situation while apologizing profusely. The cop on the other side of the call seemed sympathetic towards me, but suggested that I do not do any of this as my ex could technically sue me for kicking him out of the house while his name is still under the lease. I thanked the cop and hang up before letting my ex-boyfriend in. When he came in, he instantly blew up at me for leaving him stranded and for what I had done today. I told him that I would not hear from him and that if he wanted to live here, he needed to do so without talking to me. I think my straightforwardness intimidated him, as that seemed to shut him up. Well, currently, I'm here typing this out of my room. I was sure of my decision until I had told a couple of friends of mine about the situation, and they told me that my ex-boyfriend is technically right, as we've only known each other for about a year, which is too early to reveal your relationship to everyone else. Then, my boyfriend's friends and his family all suddenly found out about our relationship somehow, and have been blowing up my phone to tell me how disappointed they are in me, especially for kicking my ex out of the house. I honestly do not agree with what they're saying, nor do I know why they're siding with him, which is why I'm here. AITA for getting mad at my boyfriend for telling girls who were clearly hitting on him that he's not my boyfriend. Was I wrong for kicking him out? Update 1. I cannot live with my ex anymore, as I feel like he has crossed all limits he possibly can. Last night, he came to talk to me and try to get me to reconsider our relationship. He tried to sugarcoat everything, telling me how it was the fault of us both and things like that. I just laughed at his face and told him there was no way I was going to get back with him, so he needed to give up on his pathetic attempts. All he replied to me was, "Watch me," after I turned him down, and today, I found him making out with the same girl who was flirting with him at the party. He looked straight into my eye as I walked into them and told the girl not to worry as his roommate was just stupid. This honestly felt like some sort of high school drama he's trying so hard to put me into, and I decided I wasn't going to tolerate any of it. So I first contacted my best friend to see if she knew someone who needed a roommate, and surprisingly enough, her roommate is in the process of moving out of the house, and my best friend was panicking as she couldn't find a roommate. I spoke to our landlord and he told me that I could cut my lease short and leave the apartment. I was surprised as I thought I wouldn't be able to move out until my lease was up, but my landlord explained to me that this was a common occurrence, and as the rent is student friendly, there are always students who want to rent, so it wouldn't be a hassle to find a new tenant. Well, I informed my ex of this and he basically blows me off telling me that he'll just find himself a roommate. I was about to tell him that he should find a roommate as soon as possible, but I thought to myself, not my circus, not my monkeys. I finished moving out of the house within a week and feel like I have a fresh start. Moving in with my best friend also means that I have someone to keep me company. She and her boyfriend are amazing people, and upon hearing my situation, they took me to my favorite restaurant for dinner. So about a month had passed since I moved out, and I got a call from my ex. I wasn't going to pick it up, but I figured I should as it was the first time he had called me after about a month, so it might be something important. I picked up, and after exchanging awkward greetings, he asked me if I knew about anyone who wanted a roommate, and I realized exactly what he was talking about. I told him no, and that was that. I was not in contact with any of my ex's friends, except for that one mutual friend who had dropped me off the day this entire situation went down. He's a very sweet guy who checked up on me when I'd kicked my boyfriend out, so I decided I wanted to stay in contact with him. Well, we talked the other day, and he told me that my ex and the girl who flirted with him were set to move in together until she ditched him. So my boyfriend is without any other plans and is desperately looking for a roommate. He cannot afford another month's rent by himself. He even tried contacting our landlord to ask him if any one of the people wanting to rent his apartment were looking for a roommate, and the landlord informed him that most of the people wanting to rent the apartment already have roommates they want to move in with, so although he has only a couple of months of college left, he's kind of stuck in a tough situation. I honestly do not feel bad for him because he's a selfish and terrible person. Anyone who moves in with him will probably be miserable, so it's good that he did not find anyone. Update 2. Another week has passed, and I think you all would be pleased to know that my ex-boyfriend still did not find a roommate and had to vacate his apartment and move in with his parents. Apparently, he could not even move into the dorms due to some policy set up by our college, and none of his friends were willing to take him in. His parents do not live too far away from our college, but far enough that he'll have to drive a couple of hours a day to get here. I was informed of this by a mutual friend of ours who I've become pretty good friends with at this point. We've been hanging out pretty frequently, and honestly, I can say this friendship is the only good thing that came out of this situation. Well, yesterday I was surprised when I received a call from my ex-boyfriend's mother. I thought it was to chew me out again about the entire situation, and I had my guard up. Surprisingly, she was very sweet from the get-go. She apologized to me for the text that she had sent me. She told me that she was informed about the entire situation by the mutual friend who had helped my ex move into his parents' house. I was shocked as I did not expect him to do so much for me, but I accepted her apologies as she did not know any better at that time. After the call ended, I decided to ring him up to not only thank him but also to invite him for a dinner. During our call, he told me that his parents had gotten pretty mad at him for his behavior. He was also made fun of by his siblings because of the fact that his greediness made him go from one girlfriend to none. I do not care so much about my ex-boyfriend, nor do I think about him anymore, because a person as small-hearted as him does not deserve a place in my mind. I'm just happy to hear that he got the karma he deserved. Thank you all for reading and for your amazing advice. NTA, your boyfriend seems like one of those pathetic guys who would do anything to seem cool in front of the bros. He seems like a mess of a person who's good at love bombing girls and then getting bored of them after a month or two of the relationship. Boyfriend's friends seem suspicious too, probably because they're all the same as him. OP really needs to cut off her own friends, the boyfriend and his friends, for their well-being. NTA, your ex-boyfriend is trash, OP. You should have taken a stand long back. Reading this makes me wonder if OP and the boyfriend were even compatible, or just getting along because they were in their honeymoon phase, and when it ended, the boyfriend showed his true colors. OP should move out of the house instead of kicking him out, as he'll continue bothering OP in one way or the other. Next story. My parents broke up when I was a tiny baby. Dad ended up with my stepmom before I turned 1, and my siblings are 2 and 4 years younger than me. Dad's family have never really been around. My stepmom's family are the extended family of my dad's, and I spent time equally between my parents until around a year ago. I chose to primarily stay with my mom. One thing that has always bothered me is the fact that my stepmom and her family point out what a perfect and complete family we are together. They say it on such a regular basis. I've asked them to be considerate of the fact my family isn't complete with just them, and they never listen, because it is our complete family. Even when I point out my mom isn't there, it's dismissed quickly. My dad and I have talked about it. He said that it should feel nice for them to feel like I complete the family. I told him it's not that way for me, that my mom will always be part of my completed family. I asked him how he would like it if mom remarried, and I said my complete family was there with them. He never had an answer. So, last weekend was my brother's birthday. He's the youngest, and they wanted a family photo. I was in a pretty crummy mood for part of the day because my stepmom was asking me to spend summer with them and travel with them like they had planned. We had fought because I told her I didn't want to be away from my mom for the entire summer. Then during the photos, I was told to cheer up by her mom that my whole family was there. I snapped. I corrected her that my whole family was not there, and they needed to stop pushing the idea that my whole family doesn't include my mom, that I like being with them less and less because they refuse to acknowledge my whole family is different than theirs. She told me I had an actual family with my dad and stepmom, unlike my mom. I told her it was crappy to say my mom was less deserving of being my family because she chose to stay single and only have me. I said never once had she pretended that she was my whole entire family and tried to cut my dad's out. My brother chimed in and said he always found it weird that they did that, and always kind of figured that's why I chose to live with my mom instead of staying with 50-50. My dad, stepmom, and her mom all said I was rude to go off on her like that, and told me that the time was not right. AITA? NTA. Apparently, years and years of trying to communicate nicely didn't do the trick. It really does seem like there's an element of trying to limit your mom's role in your life, because I can't see why your stepmom wouldn't understand you want part of your summer with your mom. I'm glad your brother sees it.